think it bears mention that in California, where I live, there are farm worker communities where cancer is so epidemic that the children shave the heads off of their Barbie dolls while they're playing with them, because that's what they're used to seeing, is people who are going through chemotherapy and have no hair. And the life expectancy in the farm worker community in the state of California is, by one estimate, 49 years. There are a lot of factors that go into that, but you would think with cancer developing late in life, typically the cancer rates would thus be low, but actually cancer rates are epidemic in farm worker communities. Why? Well, obviously because people are spraying pesticides in the fields every day. So they're like the canaries in the coal mine, in a sense. For the rest of us, they're on the front lines day in and day out, and they're bringing it back to their families and their children. And we all eat in a way that either fuels that or fuels something else. But we can certainly see what's happening to them and say, my goodness, if it's bad for them, it's probably not good for the rest of us either. And the other piece I would add is we call these pesticides as if they kill, side is death, right? Pests. And it's actually multiple classes. So pesticides includes insecticides and fungicides and herbicides. But really, they're all biocides. They don't just kill that one thing. They kill life. Glyphosate is patented as an antibiotic. These things all kill various life forms, and they don't just stop at the so-called target. So even though, as we're hearing, they're not very effective at those targets, in fact, they produce resistance and in the long run create more problems, but they also have all kinds of other impacts on bees, on monarch butterflies, on our water, on our ecosystems, and ultimately, of course, on our children.
I want to add also just the idea of this concept of proof, that we need science to prove something, and then therefore we can take action. All of the things that Ocean just mentioned about the farm workers, that's incredibly important. And someone might say, but it's not proof. You can't prove it, therefore it's not true. But that's not how science works. Science is a tool that can give us clues that we can then choose to listen to or not as part of a very complex system. And the science on neonicotinoids, for example, is there proof that neonics are killing bees? Well, there's multiple lines of evidence from studies in the lab, studies in the field, beekeeper observations, many different ways of knowing that pesticides are a key contributing factor to bee declines. But it's not that the pesticides are necessarily outright killing the bees. What seems to be occurring, what the science is pointing to, is that it weakens the bees. And then they're much more susceptible to other problems, pests, pathogens, climate change, whatever. So we're living in complex systems with science that's looking at tiny slivers of it and trying to tell us what's what. We have to take the science and add to it common sense and observations, what's happening to farm workers, why are farmers getting cancer at higher rates all across the country. And also, science needs to come out of its little box and have the toxicologists talking to the biologists, talking to the ecologists, trying to figure out really how can we assess what's happening in these complex ecologies in which we live. And so in Europe, they do take the precautionary approach where they looked at the science on neonics and they said, that's enough for us. We're going to temporarily ban them, and then now they've made permanent bans. That plus also the beekeepers rose up, protests in the streets, they're not having it. And we don't have that culture here in the US. We're allowing our government to tell us you need absolute proof before you can take action to ban a chemical. Under the law, that's what it's. Well, guess what? They can't even reach that level of proof with asbestos, which has a disease named after it. And the government tried to ban it, and they took it to court, and they lost in court. You can't do that. It doesn't rise to the level of proof. So for anyone who says prove it, I would say, you got to make your own choices. Look at the science and look at the world around us, and then make wise choices about what you think it means and how we might take action to protect ourselves.
In my book, I quote from a molecular geneticist, Michael Antonio, who's at the King's College London. He's not opposed to genetic engineering per se. In fact, he uses it in his research. His research is geared to trying to understand and cure human genetic diseases. But because he uses the process of genetic engineering, he understands how risky it can be and how it has the potential for unintended side effects. And so when it comes to using that technology for producing foods, he's concerned, as are many other well-credentialed scientists. In fact, he knows the research, he's studied the research better than most scientists. He's written about it. And here's the statement he has made about the research, which I think is quite telling and quite chilling. If the kind of detrimental effects seen in animals fed GE food, that's genetically engineered food, were observed in a clinical setting, the product's use would be halted and further research instigated to determine the cause and to find solutions. However, what repeatedly happens in the case of GE food is that despite increasing evidence of serious adverse health test results, government and industry continue unabated with the development, endorsement, and marketing these foods as if nothing has happened, to the point they even seem to ignore the results of their own research. There is clearly a pressing need for independent research into the potential ill effects of GE food, and this research must include extensive animal and human feeding trials. That last point is very important. There have not yet been any human feeding trials, as in the case of pharmaceutical drugs. There haven't even been adequate animal tests yet, let alone moving on to human clinical trials. And many experts, including the expert panel of the Royal Society of Canada that released an extensive report on genetically engineered foods as far back as 2001, were criticizing the lax regulatory regimes in Canada, the US, and the EU, saying it's scientifically unjustifiable to presume that any genetically engineered food is safe based on the kinds of tests that were done, and calling for strong tests, including human clinical trials, and the kinds of tests they called for have yet to be instituted in any nation.